Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 1 Minute Breakdowns, where we break down this week's UFC card in a minute or less. At least we try to per fight. And I think I'm throwing a little of a curveball for you guys this time around. We haven't really had guests on the show. Last time out, Gordo joined in for the last three fights, and I think it's time for a little bit of a change. So please welcome with me our first official guest of the season, Mr. LouBetya. Lou, how are you doing?
I'm everybody's first, and I'm the one they always hate that they remember. How are you, Wes? What's going on, my brother?
Doing good.
1 minute of
Good.
knowledge is all I have per fight, so this is kind of a perfect format for me.
Or, as Mushroom says, you have 1 minute breakdowns that are mental breakdown at a rate of 60 per hour.
I would say it's the opposite, where I have a 60-minute mental breakdown once per hour. Yeah, so it kind of works out. I was told there would be no math.
That's pretty valid. Pretty valid. No equations.
I want to apologize for the lack of notes. So we discussed before we went on air. For those of you who don't know, I'm capping 3 different sports in the span of the next 3 days. And I have like 19 pages of notes. And I'm going to tell you like what horse I like in the third fight because everything's like askew. So I think I know my picks. I think I know my reasoning. Let's go.
Let's do this thing. First and foremost, we got to shout out the chat. Shout out to Jenna Marie, always showing up. Our man Mushroom. Our man Gordo that plays in Fade Sports.
He's got Gordo using caps now. Look at this guy.
Absolutely. And I already put this up, but just for a quick reminder, 1 minute mental breakdowns at a rate of 60 per minute for Lou. And last but not least, Mr. Sharks.
My buddy.
I'm gonna leave that for you, Shark. You get to have that.
He has my back over yours because he's gonna help me.
You said you were gonna hand him the steel chair to hit me with, so I'm gonna have to back off for a second.
Strength versus vet savvy.
All right, let's say we do this thing. First and foremost, we have Diana Belbita going up against Maria Oliveira. Belbita is going to have a 1-inch height advantage. Oliveira is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, and they're both the same age. Lou, kick off for us.
Well, she's training out of Canada now with Kyle Nelson. Diana Belbur, as Best Fight Odds likes to call her. I don't know, man. I'm not impressed with Oliveira at all. There's a Apollo fight, she was fine. Belbita, I guess, has the takedown upside here. She's got the hometown crowd. I'm never betting this fight. The pick is Belbita. I didn't need a minute for this one.
I got you. I think similar. I think Belbita here is going to have the grappling advantage. And to be honest, Oliveira's last fight out when she got taken by Vanessa Demopoulos, I mean, you have to be really bad at takedown defense if you're getting taken down by Vanessa Demopoulos. I think Belbita will be able to match volume on the feet as well. Both ladies throw a ton of volume, but I think the grappling is going to be the difference here. So give me Diana Belbita, but not something I'm looking to lay on. But next fight, we have Mr. David Dvorak going up against Steve Erceg. Erceg is going to be making his UFC debut here. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, a 1/2-inch reach advantage, and is 4 years younger. Now, a lot of people are on the Steve Erceg side as the underdog. The line went crazy from the +350s to minus freaking 150 to Dvorak, and then back to the line's all over the place. But I think what people see the most with Steve Erceg here is the grappling and wrestling upside compared to David Dvorak. Dvorak looked like he accepted bottom position against Manil Kopp, who is a pretty decent jiu-jitsu player. So I wouldn't really put the comparison with Steve Erceg being able to do the same exact thing. But at the same time, you don't want to be laying that much chalk with a guy like David Dvorak, who was touted to have this much power, calling himself the Undertaker. But coming into the UFC, really hasn't shown that power all that much. So I got to lean with the dog here with Steve Erceg, but not much confidence. Lou, what do you think?
I'm going to play the under 2.5 at +145 here. I missed the number on Erceg earlier obviously, had I gotten it at I think Couch Warrior got it +350. Had I gotten it earlier in the week, that'd have been great. Erceg took this fight. Remember, he's on short notice here. This is supposed to be Schnell, I believe, right?
Yep.
Okay. So he took it on short notice, obviously making a pretty big flight. It's his debut. Dvorak's, look, 0-2, but against pretty good. It's a big step down in competition for Dvorak. I think that needs to be said here. I know Dvorak hasn't, as you said, he hasn't proven to be this like massive finisher, but I think if Ursic's going to win, it might be like a round one submission. I think it's going to end up being him getting a takedown. He is not good as takedowns. I think Kop's just wildly underrated on the ground. If Usyk can't get him out of there early and expends all that energy with the grappling, I do think Dvorak could take it over. We've seen this before. You lose 2 fights, you're on your 3rd fight, maybe in danger of getting cut for what he gets paid. I think he has to come out and have a statement performance. So either Usyk super early, Dvorak 2nd or 3rd rounds. I'm going to pick Dvorak for the sake of the show because at this current number, I don't want to bet either side, but Dvorak, I just think the better competition, more experience, better strength of schedule. So all those things for him, for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But never betting. I can't bet a side. It's dog or pass for a bet.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Next fight, we have Blake Bilder going up against Kyle Nelson, the beloved Kyle Nelson. Nelson's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, a 2.5-inch reach advantage, and they're both the same age.
Well, I'm either going to bet the under or I'm going to bet a prop because Bilder at over minus 200 is like just insanity. It's a guy who gets tagged every fight. He's action, like the Shane Young fight. Like even that, like Young hadn't fought in like 34 years and Bilder still got beat up a little bit, but he fights through it. He's a pretty tough dude. And Nelson, I think, is the opposite. I don't think Nelson's the toughest guy. I think he tires out quick, but he's the better technical boxer here for sure. Because Bilder's not technical at all. So I like the under. I've been burned twice on these unders with Kyle Nelson the last 2 fights. So like in for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. But I do think Nelson, even though Bilder's never been finished, I think Nelson has finished an equity here because Bilder, again, just strike defense is terrible, gets rocked. I do think if the fight goes on, Bilder will take over. I like Bilder to get a late finish here. So give me Bilder as the pick for the show. I'd rather play the under 2.5. At minus 140, I think it's a pretty reasonable number.
Yeah, I have similar thoughts here. I think a lot of people had the narrative with Blake Bilder when he was facing Shane Young in that first fight that Shane Young was going to be able to finish him and that Bilder hasn't fought the best of competition, always got rocked, and just didn't face someone who had killer instinct. So a lot of people were on Shane Young, but didn't really pan out. And Kyle Nelson's a guy that he gasses. He has that first round, hit it or quit it, and then he just pretty much falls apart. I don't think Blake Bilder should be this big of a favorite. I'll say that, given his 2nd UFC fight. But you look on the other side, who is he facing? He's facing Kyle Nelson, who is pretty much no disrespect at all, but he is the throwaway fighter of the UFC at this point. If they want to find someone that needs a win, put him up against Kyle Nelson. So although I'm not going to be touching the money line when it comes to like a parlay or something, I do think that Blake Bilder ends up winning this fight just due to how tough he is. And he does have the dexterity on the mat and is able to wrestle. So give me Blake Bilder in this matchup.
I mean, they tried to give Duho Choi his first win in 4 years against this guy.
Oh, man. And then that headbutt. I can't believe he took a point for that headbutt. That ruined a lot of people's. Well, it didn't ruin their night, but it could have been a lot bigger for most people just because a lot of people were on the Duho.
It ruined it if you had the under. It ruined your night.
Oh yeah. Shout out to the boys. Yes, sir. Jacob, thank you for supporting. I appreciate you. But on to this next fight, we have Ayman Zahabi going up against Arichi Lang. Zahabi's going to have a 1-inch height advantage. Arichi Lang, and this is a first, ladies and gentlemen. I have never seen Topology put a decimal height or reach differential besides 0.5. He has a 1.3-inch reach advantage, which that was just very weird to me. And Arichi Lang is going to be 6 years younger here. How I see this fight playing off, I mean, Ayman Zahabi does not throw volume whatsoever on the feet. He's someone who plays it somewhat safe and looks for his counters. And I think Arichi Lang is going to be able to grapple him in this matchup and win some minutes. On the feet, I think I favor Arichi Lang with the speed and the power. Technically, I do think Zahabi is the much better technical striker. But at the current price, I do think Arichi Lang wins. And I am very close to locking him in as a money line play, but I'm just watching some more tape to be sure. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Let me add this, and this is one thing that was in my notes. At least I remember this. So this will be a Richie Lang's. I think this is crucial. I think this is his third fight at 135. You know, he fought Jeff Molina. Say what you want about Molina, whatever. Like, still like fine fighter. Durden, grapple heavy pace. Richie Lang was killing himself to make 125. He moved up. Cameron L stinks, but
Yep.
what's he supposed to do? And Jay Perrin, who you know is going to be at least a dog, he's going to have a grapple heavy approach. I know Richie Lang lost the third round of that fight, but Perrin does put like a pretty crazy pace. Like his cardio has been pretty good. Zahabi does not put any kind of pace on you. So I think to your point, Richie Lang can kind of dictate where this fight goes. The only thing you'd have to worry about with an Richie Lang ticket is I don't think Zahabi knocks him out, but if Richie Lang just decides to make this 15 minutes of stand up, and Zahabi, he is the more technical striker, he can just land at will if Richie Lang's reckless. But if he mixes the grappling and gets Zahabi thinking about it, I think he should win a pretty comfortable unanimous decision here.
Yes, sir. I'm glad we're on the same side here.
It is in Canada. So like,
Yep.
so be
And we
careful.
haven't
And,
been to
always
Canada
be
in quite some
careful.
time.
Always be careful betting fights that you're going to go to decision at a high clip.
Yeah, we have not been to Canada in quite some time, so we don't know how the judging is out there. So be careful.
You could
Next,
say the judging's on fire.
you could, That wouldn't be wrong. But that's also pretty sad.
Yeah, trust, dude. I'm like, that's the whole outside right now is like a red sky with all this smoke. So
It's pretty sunny out here.
yeah, it's the gift from Gordo.
Next up, we have Jasmine Jasudavicius going up against Miranda Maverick. Lou.
So I think the line's wide. I understand why though, because I think Maverick, her grappling's good. Her striking is going to be way better here, but she doesn't have a reach advantage. There's a bet that I like here. Couch Warrior, Propaholic, and I were all talking about it. I like Jasudavicius plus 3.5. It's gone up. It's not plus money anymore. It's minus 125. But I do think Jasudavicius can steal around. I think Maverick is not going to have it so easy getting this fight to the ground. If it stays on the feet, can Jasudavicius use her length? I do think she can win one round. We just talked about the judging. I think she could get some home cooking here. And it's another fight that I do think goes distance at a pretty high clip. So give me Jasudavicius to cover. And I kind of like the money line poke here too. I do think maybe she can frustrate Maverick. I know you interviewed her, but
Yeah,
Maverick.
watch your mouth.
No, what I was going to say about Maverick is she doesn't fight a style that the judges like love. The Barber fight was a robbery, but I feel like Maverick maybe doesn't throw enough volume to really put stamps on rounds. So I think Jasudavicius could steal a really greasy split decision here, but the plus 3.5 for me is the bet.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this. Jasudavicius 4-inch height advantage, 2.5-inch reach advantage, and Maverick is going to be 9 years younger here. There's a big angle that everyone does follow in MMA, and it's the 10-year plus age gap, and it hits at like a 70% rate. But this is 9 years, so it's not quite there yet. I do think that Jasudavicius could win a round. I do agree with that plus 3.5 bet. But I think Miranda Maverick's going to be able to take her down at will here. The taller they all, I was mentioning this on the online podcast earlier today when I was on there. The taller they are, the harder they fall, and the quicker they fall too. It's a lot harder for you to keep your balance when you're a little bit taller. And Maverick is a pretty decent wrestler, I would say. I think she has her covered in the grappling department. So I do think Maverick ends up winning the fight, but do I see Jasudavicius winning a round, stealing a round with that home cooking too on her side? I don't think it's far fetched at all. So I do agree with that plus 3.5 bet. I think it's pretty. I'm not gonna say safe because that's just not the right
It's
term.
definitely not safe.
Yeah, it's not safe. Nothing is safe, but I think it's a good bet. But not the most passionate take here. On to the next one. We have something that you feel really passionate about. We have Nasruddin Imavov going up against Chris Curtis. Imavov's going to have a 5-inch height advantage. Curtis is going to have a 1/2-inch reach advantage, and Imavov is 8 years younger. Lou, I'm going to let you start off with this one because you have a beautiful way of explaining this one.
Well, I'm going to save any venom that I have for the Friday show. I'm a guest on your show. I have to be careful what I say. I don't want anybody get in trouble for my words. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm leaning Chris Curtis here. I will not bet it. I don't want to root for him. But what I worry about with Imavov, it's not the Strickland fight because he was up a weight. It was a short notice fight where they had to have a replacement opponent, 5 rounds. A lot of things about that fight that I don't think apply here. I don't care if they're training partners. Like, also I know that like Imavov's 0-3 against like Curtis's coach here, but I don't really care about that dynamic either. What I care about here is the Buckley fight, where it was a really bad look for Imavov as that fight went on. Like, end of the second round, third round, he was like running away from him. Like, and the one thing I like about Curtis's boxing is that he loves going to the body. And if Imavov, if his cardio is going to fade in the third round against Buckley, who I don't think is, in all fairness, very good, I think if Curtis works the body early, I do think he can sap the strength of Imavov. And the last thing I'll add about why I like Curtis here is the narrative with Chris Curtis is that he's a slow starter. You don't think he's hearing that, and you don't think he's looking back like, had I started out faster against Gastelum, I win that fight. So I think that's in his head. Don't start slow in this fight. And if he wins the first round, I think he probably coasts. He may even get a late finisher. So give me Chris Curtis to win. Delete this tape immediately. I never said it. And that's it.
Yeah, no, I'm leaning the other side here. I think Chris Curtis really struggled with the leg kicks against Hermanson. I think Hermanson laid out the blueprint against a guy like Curtis, and no disrespect at all, but I think Imavov is going to be the better overall striker. He has more tools, the kicking game. He's a little bit faster when it comes to the punches, and he doesn't have to be in the pocket to win these exchanges. Now, I'm not going to be playing the Imavov money line here at all. I think it is a very close fight, but something that I'm waiting to see when the line does open up is Imavov round 1. And I know that Chris Curtis is probably hearing that he loses the first round at quite a decent clip. But I'm not gonna trust just how someone thinks. If you're a slow starting fighter, you're gonna be a slow starting fighter until you start to show these improvements and to work on it in the gym. But until then, you're gonna have to take that angle. So Imavov first round, I know they have those lines at Bet Online. So I'll wait until Saturday until they release them, and if it's a decent price, I will go to win about a unit and a half on that. But other than that, nothing on this fight. I think this is going to be a really exciting fight to watch, though. Both bangers.
I feel sick. I feel sick to my stomach.
I know.
Right now.
I know. That's why you caught me off by surprise there. Next up, we have Eric Anders going up against Marc-Andre Barriault. They're both the same height. Anders is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, and Barriault is going to have is going to be 3 years younger. So the way I see this fight playing out, there's a couple of things I don't really like about Marc-Andre here. In that first round against Julian Marquez and a couple of his other fights, he just does not take damage well. He does not take these punches well. He doesn't react well to them. When Marquez was touching him up, he looked like he was very shortly like gonna be out of there if Marquez was able to land more. He was getting hurt, and every time he gets hit, he starts looking to the side and like curling up a little bit. And I think Anders, yeah, he's not the hardest hitter in the division. I know he got a knockout in his last fight, but it's against someone who had a facial reconstruction surgery in Dacus. But I think what Anders is going to be able to do here is grapple. And Barriault almost gets taken down in every single one of his fights, but his opponents just tend to gas out due to his pressure. And I just don't think Anders is a guy that gasses out that bad to a point where he just doesn't know how to fight anymore. He's a guy that tends to push through it. So I do like the dog side here in Anders. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah, I went back and forth early. I wanted to bet Mab like as soon as I saw the line, but the more and more I thought about it, the more I liked your boy Roll Tide, Eric Anders. I do think that Barriault can be controlled here. He looked awful against Marquez until he didn't. I mean, he looked awful the first 5 minutes of that fight. It was a bad look. And then Marquez just gasses. I think Anders can have success for the takedowns. I know his stats are kind of misleading because he had hardly any takedowns against the Iron Turtle. I think he had like 20 some attempts in that fight and he only got 2 or 3. So that's going to skew his stats. But Barriault can be taken down. And Barriault's chin is not like I don't know. Like, I think people overrate his chin. I don't care about the fluffy fight, but the cheaty fight was, I mean, and I think I had the over. It's like a horrible look. I think Anders hits a lot harder, and stylistically, the fights that Anders does best against are fights like this where it's just going to be a boxing fight. Like, this isn't like the Roundtree fight where it's going to be hitting him with all sorts of kicks to his leg and just effing him up. Barriault's just going to want to get in the clinch, get against the cage, dirty box. And Anders is the stronger guy and the better athlete. So I'm not even sure that Barriault has a huge advantage there. I don't think Barriault has a huge round 3 advantage here. So I think Anders can control at least 2 rounds. Anders' decision is the pick. So, and at this price, money's come in on Anders a little bit. He's down to like 115. So if you're going to bet him, get it now.
Yeah, I hesitated a little bit, but I think I might be locking that one in. But next up, we have Dan Ige going up against Nate Landwehr. What a fight. Landwehr is going to have the 2-inch height advantage here. Ige with the half-inch reach advantage. And Ige is going to be 4 years younger. Lou, what do you think about this fight?
Okay, well, first and foremost, Mills, don't steal my gimmick. Ain't no stealing my gimmick, brother. You get your handbags is good though. I like that. Shout out to handbags. I really wanted to bet Landwehr here. I really, really wanted to bet Landwehr. And I went into the stats and I'm like, because everybody's assuming, oh, he's just going to want to stand up on his feet and one for the fans. Well, he's gotten a takedown in his last 3 fights. He's against guys that are not even as dangerous a striker as Ige. So he's proven that he's willing to do it. And Ige has been controlled before by the Korean Zombie. But the Korean Zombie and Nate Landwehr, there's levels to this. Big time levels. I love Landwehr, but he just gets hit. Lingo was tagging him. I mean, and Ige, if he hits him like Lingo did, I think Landwehr goes to sleep. I like Ige KO here. It's plus 150. It's not a real great price, but I think the way that, and if Landwehr does go for takedowns, I don't think he can hold Ige down the whole round. I think Ige will be able to work himself back up. I love Damon Jackson. I feel like this fight probably plays out closer to the way the Ige Jackson fight played out than the Ige Zombie fight. And, Landwehr's like got a job for life, I think, at this point. Like a loss here is not going to really kill him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Ige is going to have a similar fight to that Damon Jackson fight where he finds his rhythm and his groove in the striking. And historically, Dan Ige, if you're not in the top 15, he will make sure he shows you the door, because if you can't beat Dan Ige, then I don't know how likely you are to get into that top 10. Dan Ige is someone who's been a staple of the division, and against a guy like Nate Landwehr, it was very easy to land on. I don't think it's going to take much for him to put Landwehr out, because Damon Jackson and Landwehr are going to be coming in with a similar game plan. Not saying that Damon Jackson isn't a dog here, but I think Landwehr is more hittable. And if Damon Jackson, who I rate a little bit higher in the wrestling department than Landwehr, isn't able to take Ige down, I don't think Nate's going to be able to take him down. So I think Ige is much more sharp, as Gordo is saying in the chat, in the striking, and I think he gets a knockout here. Whether it's first or second round, who knows? But I think it's going to be early and often.
And I don't think Landwehr has finish equity here. Ige is just so durable. That I just want to throw that one in there too.
Yeah, I mean, if Mozart couldn't get him out, which Mozart doesn't really get people out, but you know what I mean. But next up, we have Mike Malott going up against Adam Fugit. They both have the same height. Fugit's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, and Malott is going to be 3 years younger. Lou, did you go first on the last one, or was that me?
I went first.
Yeah, you went first. So this is how I see this fight playing out. Malott, what is he good at? What is he going to be looking for? He's going to be looking towards the grappling and the wrestling to find that sub early on in the first round. But what I fear is in this fight, Adam Fugit is a guy that can wrestle. He's not no slouch on the mat, and he does have his own type of grappling. I think Fugit's going to be the better striker in this matchup, and I think he has more power than Malott. Going up against someone like Malott, who does not really cover up well, defensive striking is pretty awful. And if you're getting hit like that against Mickey Gall, I think a guy like Adam Fugit's going to be able to touch you up and put you out. And Fugit, as an underdog, tends to perform very well. And I'm not one that looks into market performance and whatnot, but It's just a fact. Every time Fugit's been an underdog over the past 4 fights, he's ended up winning. Whether he gets dropped first and then he ends up dropping his opponent, or if he's the one that's the aggressor all the way through and through. So I gotta go with Adam Fugit. The round 1 KO prop is something that I'm gonna be looking towards.
Yeah, so Fugit looks like the guy from that invented Lugal in a Hot Tub Time Machine, Rob Corddry. So I always it's like, that's fun to bet on. One thing you didn't mention that certainly needs to be mentioned here, he has a 4-inch reach advantage. He's actually bigger than Malat. And I know Malat just looks like a goddamn tank. Fugit's not a small guy. I had money on Fugit against Kinoshita. There's no reason to stop the train here. I just think he's better. I think a live bet on Fugit. See, you like him round 1, but I mean, if this gets out of the first round, just add to your position on Fugit.
Yep.
Like, you might miss the number, but I don't think you're going to miss it. Like, even if Fugit wins the first round, you're probably getting minus 110, 120 on him at that point. And to me, that would be an absolute steal. So I love him here. Again, I missed the number on him big, but I still think plus 175, 180 is not bad. So sorry, Gordo. Going against all your Canadians here.
Yeah, all the Canadians
I
are
picked Jasudavicius to win a
Mhm.
round.
Around, yeah, that's something. Next up, we have the co-main event and arguably the main event for most people. We have Charles Oliveira going up against Beneil Dariush. Oliveira and Dariush are going to have the same height. Oliveira is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's going to be 1 year younger. Lou, what do you think about this fight?
Yeah, I'm worried because I'm on the Benny side. Let me just get that out of the way. I don't have the confidence that a lot of people have on the Dariush side. And this has nothing to do with Oliveira coming off a loss. It really comes down to one thing for me when I went and looked at the styles here. So, Oliveira gets rocked in every fight, and that's just kind of the way this goes. A different referee, and Chandler's the world champion. He hurt Oliveira bad enough where that could have been stopped. Gaethje hurt him. Everybody hurts this guy. I think Dariush can hurt this guy. The difference between them and Dariush is Dariush will go into Oliveira's guard. He will go to the ground with him immediately and not give him time to rest. And Dariush can smother him on the ground. Obviously, like, Oliveira is incredibly dangerous on the ground. I'm taking nothing away from Charles Oliveira. But Dariush is so well-rounded that he will be able to, I think, get knockdowns and grind out time on the ground. Everybody's on this under because they're looking at Oliveira's history. I think Dariush can win a decision here. I honest to God think that he can win the first 2 rounds and just get this to the ground and be safe. He knows he's got a title shot if he wins. There's no reason to do anything stupid in that 3rd round if you're Dariush. So I like Dariush. There's not enough meat on the bone for the decision prop, I don't think. But I think this is Dariush's time. I'm going to tell you what the decision prop is, by the way. It's plus 330. Yeah, that's no. To have your butthole clenched for 15 minutes. No, thank you for plus 330. But yeah, give me Benny here. And I have no idea who you have for this fight. So you're either going to put me in my place or we're the best.
Yeah, no, I think we talked about this, but you probably forgot. I'm on the Dariush side. I got him early at minus 120. I just think that he's better than Oliveira. He has him covered pretty much everywhere, and that might come to a surprise to most, but Benny is a legit black belt in jiu-jitsu. He has competed, and he's multiple-time world champion. And when you look at a guy like Oliveira that gets cracked fight in, fight out, and gets dropped in almost every single fight, like Lou said, the difference is Benny's not going to be afraid to go into Oliveira's guard. And I think if he wants to find a sub, he could probably find a sub like Islam Makhachev would. But I think in this situation, Benny's going to be the better wrestler. And the way he slices through people's guards, I would not be surprised if he drops them, slices through the guard, and just wins via ground and pound KO, TKO. So I think this is the fight where I have the most money invested. I do have the under 2.5. I got it at an earlier price at minus 165. Right now it's at minus 220. Got Dariush at minus 120. And then I also played Dariush KO1, KO2, and then my boy
Crazy
Tim
line, crazy
Troiano.
lines, crazy
Yeah,
lines.
crazy lines. And my boy Tim Troiano told me if you bet round one and round two, you have to bet round three. So I took the round three at plus 2,200. So it's plus 1,400, 1,600, and then 2,200 in order of the rounds for the KO finish for Dariush. Those were small sprinkles, and I think those are the way to go. Not saying anyone should play them. If you don't like those kind of bets, hey, I was one of you guys until Lou brought me over to the dark side, and I hit my first one with Anthony Hernandez round three. So here I am. I do think that he gets him out of there early, though. So whether it's round one or round two, give me Benny. I think it's his time, and then you have the aspect or the angle of someone who had the belt, already tasted the success and the glory, versus someone who's been denied time and time again. It makes him that much more hungry and that much more dangerous. So he's calculated, and in a recent interview, he said that he's going to be looking to finish Charles, which yeah, that's good to hear for a guy that has the under. But you know, it's not something that you can be like, oh, he's gonna finish him. Then you just don't know how to fight plays out.
Do you think that Oliveira has any decision equity in this fight at all? Because I
No,
don't. Okay.
no, not at all. Zero.
I do think Dariush has tons of decision equity, though. I get the under. I get it, but I think he has decision equity.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all because I think Dariush with the decision equity. I mean, if it does get past that second round, there's a reason no one's able to finish, and the person who has the control time is likely going to be Benny with that wrestling. He can
Get
stay
that,
safe and just wrestle him for 3 rounds, but I don't
get
think he
that man
wants
as
to do that.
Tesla. Get that man as Tesla.
Get him his Tesla and don't give him the microphone after.
Oh, he's funny. Come on, man.
Last but not least, we have the main event. We have the Lioness Amanda Nunes going up against Irene Aldana. Aldana is going to have a 1-inch height advantage. Nunes is going to have a half-inch reach advantage. They're both the same age. Lou, what do you think about this last one?
I see a lot of people on Aldana, and I don't get it. Sorry, don't get it.
Yeah,
Don't see
yeah.
it. Don't care. Nunez in the distance, minus 130. Simple enough to me. She's better everywhere. Aldana needed an up kick to the liver on Macy Chiasson, getting
Please,
like
please, Justin Bieber.
no, getting like 10-8'd in that round to win. Holly Holm looked like D1 home against her. What do you think Nunez is gonna look like? I know, and like I get that Nunez lost to Pena, and everybody's, oh, well, it happens to champions. Now there's this angle, oh, well, maybe Nunez is talking about going to the WWF and retiring and all this. I think once you lose, I mean, look what she came back to against Pena. She looked hungry. She looked like she cared. And I can see her just coming out here and absolutely stomping Aldana in the first 2 rounds. Her sub 1 and sub 2 props are bonkers. Everyone just seems to think she's getting a KO here. I think the sub's crazy live. So
Ooh.
yeah, it's however she wants it. The sub 1 for Nunez is plus 1,200. The sub 2's plus 1,800. With somebody who's going to have a tremendous grappling advantage, can win this fight wherever she wants. I mean, I don't know. Those numbers are bonkers to me. So
Yeah,
give me,
you opened my eye.
yeah, Nunez within the first 3 rounds for me. I mean, the under 2.5's even money, which I think is interesting because I don't think Aldana is going to get a late finish. I think if there's a finish, it's early or this fight gets like weirdly ugly. But still works for Nunez's favor because she has the grappling equity.
Yeah, you opened my eye with that submission call. I didn't even think of that. So I'm gonna have to look at those numbers too. But
It's a
yeah,
prop to consider and
and
then
maybe
maybe bet.
yeah. If you guys haven't checked out Lou's show, you know where to find more of those looks. But yeah, I don't know what people are seeing in Irene Aldana. I think what most people are playing into is the Mexican champion era and that narrative. Which I mean, if you're a narrative better, I completely understand, and that's the bet that you have to make. And then there's also the people that play into the narrative of Amanda Nunes having another kid, and she lost the first time out when she was having her first one. But I think what Amanda Nunes really wants is that trilogy with Juliana Pena to set it and make sure that no one has any doubts, get that trilogy going and win that third fight before she ever thinks about retiring. So I think she beats Irene Aldana here fairly easily. I think she stomps her, probably takes her down within the first 2 rounds. And whether it's a knockout, whether it's a TKO submission, any which way she wants it. So I'm going to be looking towards Amanda Nunes inside the distance line too for a bigger bet. That's just personally how I feel. If you don't feel the same way, you don't need to take the same bet. But yeah, I think Nunes gets it done, and I don't really see any value in that Irene Aldana money line. It's just plain and simple. Amanda Nunes is, if not a level, 2 levels above Irene Aldana right now, who was getting dominated in the 3rd round by Justin Bieber in the grappling. So that's all I'm going to say about this one. Lou, tell the people where they could find you and what you have going on.
Well, this is a little bit of a different week because we've got a lot of sports, but 8 o'clock tonight on Brady's show, Best Bets. Thursday, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Props to consider and then maybe bet with fellow member of the Four Horsemen, Liam Picks Fights. Thursday at 5 on Propaholics channel with Uncle Weezy. Friday happy hour, 5:30. Doing a Champions League video tomorrow morning. Doing a Belmont video tomorrow morning. And Saturday, 11 a.m., exclusively on the MMA Engine, I will be one time only for now, debuting. Sorry, I'm a little sweaty. Debuting the LouBetya Jr. Saturday Sports Jackpot Wad, sponsored by Royal Dansk Danish Butter Cookies. Royal Dansk Danish Butter Cookies. They're not very good, but you can store your weed in here. So that is what I will be doing Saturday morning at 11 a.m., going over all 3 sports that I covered. I may have some guests that come in, but hopefully not, because who's going to be more interesting than this clown eating butter cookies on air? So thank you for the time, Wiz. I enjoyed the 1-minute breakdowns.
No, thank you for coming on, and guys, thank you so much for the support today in the chat. It means a lot, and this was actually really fun. Looking forward.
What do you mean, actually?
I mean, I never really thought that this kind of video concept would be good for bringing guests on, but you know what? I think it's growing on me slowly, probably day by day. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing another one next week with another guest. I haven't really reached out to anyone yet, but we'll see. But yeah, guys, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate you all, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of 1 Minute.